have lots of notes. You will see here, I have all the people connected to Noah Presgrove, like having to do with the case. And then I wrote a whole detailed timeline on the day of, like in the weekend. And then I have just like pages and pages of notes. Yeah, they're one-sided because I use permanent marker. But yeah, so I have a lot of notes, okay? Sorry that my intro is so long. I'm a talker, which is why I have a commentary channel. 19-year-old Noah Presgrove was born May 14, 2004, and sadly lost his life on September the 4th, 2023. So just roughly eight months ago or so. Noah was born in Duncan, Oklahoma. He moved around a lot, including in Texas and other cities within Oklahoma, but eventually settled in Comanche, Oklahoma with his grandmother. His grandmother's name is Deborah. He did, from what I know, have a relationship with both his mother and his father, but I don't know the details of that, and honestly, it's none of my business. I was raised by my grandma, so that's cool. So Noah was a four-sport athlete in high school. He did wrestling.
Get him down. Stay in there.
Oh, good job. Good job, Noah. Good job, Noah.
There, Noah.
Football, track, and cross country, just to name a few. He apparently did other sports as well, but that's the ones he did in high school. He graduated in May of 2023 and had a plan to join the Marines with his cousin Travis. His cousin is going to graduate this year in May of 2024. He was waiting for that cousin to graduate, and then they were going to go off together. They went through the whole process already, and including meeting with the Marines and everything. And we're like basically good to go, just waiting on Travis to graduate. And unfortunately, now that plan is not able to happen. So the gist of what everyone knows and what the news has shared is that Noah attended, but this isn't the truth, okay? It's a partial truth. Noah attended a 4-day, like Labor Day party with friends, and it eventually led to him. He was found on the side of the road on the 4th day of everything. So this is Labor Day long weekend, which would be the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 4th is including Labor Day Monday. He was found just after 5 a.m. on the side of the highway of Highway 81, just north of Terrell, Oklahoma, on road, I wrote it down, E2130. And that was about a mile from the house where the party was at. He was found without any clothes on. He had mismatched shoes. One was his, and one, I believe, was his best friend Jack's. And you're going to learn a little bit more about Jack a little bit later, but not like crazy detailed. And he was covered with a tarp. He was found with multiple injuries. I'm going to just read the list that I wrote down here. The back of his head was caved in. He had road rash to his right hip. He had a gravel rash on his shoulder. He had multiple bruises all over his body. He had multiple rib fractures. And an important thing to note is that there was no debris on the road. He had no arm or leg fractures, and there was only a small spot of on the ground. Because initially, at the beginning of this investigation, when the police got there, they treated it as a hit and run.
They're trying to figure out what led to the death of an Oklahoma teen.
At first, they thought it was a hit and run because his body was found on the side of a 2-lane highway. But now they're not so sure.
But there is no indication of a hit and run. His shoes weren't even off. I've heard his brother, I think it's Dallin. Sorry if I'm getting it, Dalen or Dallin. I've seen the news write it, but I've not heard them say the name, so I'm so sorry if I got that incorrect. He has said that Noah had Hey Dude shoes on, which are like boat shoes. I can put a picture here somewhere. And if he was hit at highway speeds of like 65 to 70 miles, those would have just flown off. And then also, his injuries weren't indicative of being hit by a car.
Aunt says that it was obvious his nose and his cheek were broken.
They said that they didn't think that this was from a vehicle. It wasn't an auto ped. There was no indication of wraparound. There was no indication of any kind of injuries to the lower half of his body. So his pelvic would have had injury, his legs, but there was nothing on the lower half of his body. Everything was to the top of his body on the left side. Yes, whether it was from the front or the back, if he had been hit forward, he would have gone forward over the hood, and if he had been hit from the back, he would have splayed back over the hood. And there was no indication of that whatsoever.
Because when you're hit by a car, you obviously go rolling, right? And he only had injuries mainly to his left side of his body, besides the head injuries and some random bruises on his body. And then his teeth were placed, it appeared to be placed next to him on the ground. And if he had been hit by a car where his teeth had fallen out, they'd be scattered further away, obviously, like in the grass and stuff. But he was like on the side of the road, and it's a 2-lane highway. So, one going one direction and one going the opposite direction. He was found by a semi-truck driver who had driven past him, saw his body, and then turned around and saw him. And allegedly, this is the guy who called 911. I did request the 911 call, but haven't heard anything back. If you don't know, I am Canadian, and I look at my phone. I did reach out to the wrong county initially, which was Jackson County. And this happened, as I said, in Terrell, Oklahoma, which is in Jefferson County. And I couldn't find any information. They don't have just like a sheriff office website, which is really weird. I've noticed that with a few Oklahoma counties because I was looking into the moms with that God's Misfits, Unfortunately, I haven't heard anything back. The Jackson County one was very helpful, and they gave me the contact information, but I can also see why they won't release the 911 call because it could give out information of that person or it could impede on the investigation. So I totally get it, but it's still worth it in cases to request information, even at the risk of being declined, because you never know what they're willing to release, right? Especially because it, as of right now, like a little while ago, it has not been ruled an unaliving. So just so you're aware, with my channel, at least what I've realized with my algorithm and the AI scanning my videos, the first 10 minutes, I have to use the words that aren't as sensitive. So like unalive versus the M word. But after the 10-minute mark, I've tested this and I believe I can use the right words. So if it's triggering to you or annoying, I'm sorry. It's just how it is on YouTube and for my channel. So that's the general information. Oh yeah. And also he was found in the fetal position, which is weird to me. And to go back to the tarp, it's also interesting that he is covered in a tarp, because what I find weird about that is that would show, and I believe it was in the Facebook group. I joined the Facebook group for Noah Presgrove. It's called Justice for Noah Presgrove. I joined that like at the very end of my research. And I think it was in there that someone had mentioned, and I was like, that's so true. He was covered up, and that kind of shows a personal connection that someone would have to him. Because if this was like a serial unaliver, like most often they're not just going to hide them like that. If they're going to hide them, they're going to really hide them, right? Not just on the side of the highway, and that he's covered in a tarp. It just shows some sort of personal connection that someone who put him there maybe had with him. If it was an unaliver who's just going to dump him on the road, why would they cover him in a tarp? That doesn't make any sense. So I believe with this timeline, that is all we as the public knew. And people are like, there has to be more to the story. And you better believe it, there's more to the story. At least in my personal opinion. Again, I'm a commentary channel. I'm not an investigator. I'm just doing the best to find as much information as possible. And a lot of it I'm not even going to share, honestly, because some of it will reveal people who, you don't want to ruin people's lives. And these people that I'm mentioning, their names are already out there. So, except for the public figure. Okay, so that is the timeline for what we know. Now I'm going to get into the real timeline, okay? This is the general timeline that is correct, but there are certain things that are incorrect, like it wasn't a 4-day long party. So, okay, let's get into that next. I wrote timeline Noah Presgrove. Okay, and I'm going to be looking down for a lot of this, for certain details. I do have to look down, obviously, to make sure I get this correct, and I don't have a teleprompter. I just film on a Canon, which doesn't even have doesn't have one of those screens, whatever it's called. Okay, so it is known that Noah went to the party on Saturday, September 2nd. But the timeline of the people that possibly could be involved, at least the people who were at the party, starts on Friday, September the 1st. So the one person that's been mentioned is Avery Joe. I won't share her last name, but she is the party host. She was the one who turned 22 years old and who invited everybody over to her house for a party. On her Facebook, she had posted this event that she was putting on with someone named Joni. I'm not going to share that person's last name, but if you are in this area, you live here, you know who that person is. She put on an event with this person from Friday, September 1st to Saturday, September 2nd. Both days it started at 6:30 a.m. and it was put on by River Border Outfitters, LLC. And it was held at 12 West Apache, sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, in Terrell. And it was held at the town hall, which obviously you would hold events there. And it's also connected to the fire hall. So this event was put on by these two people. Obviously, it was probably put on by more people, but this person in particular owns a business that has to do with I think it's duck hunting or some kind of hunting. So it makes sense that the event starts at 6:30 in the morning. But my assumption is if there was indeed a 4-day party, which Noah did not attend the whole thing, then these people maybe got together in the evening after their whole event and then went to Avery's house. It's not just Avery's house, her parents own the house. So that's what would have happened, is there would have been some sort of hangout there. So I think there's something to look into there, see who attended that thing, and then maybe went over there. And then the person that she held the event with actually owns, if I'm getting this correct, owns the land that the house is on, and they own a lot of land. I don't know if it's her and her husband, but she does have a husband, so it must be them together. They own a ton of land, like cattle land and like tons of land in their community in Oklahoma. So that is Avery Joe's event and this Joni person and whoever else is at play. These are only people I'm mentioning because this Joni person is like pretty much a public figure because they own a ton of land and people know their name in this community. So on Friday, September 1st, so remember this event was happening Friday, September 1st to Saturday, September 2nd. But the part that includes Noah is on Friday, September 1st. Remember, Noah played football in high school. He went to, I believe his cousin, like I said, I wonder if it was Travis who still plays, if he's the one who plays football, or if it was a different cousin. He went to a football game, a Comanche football game at 7:30 p.m. with his family. And I found a video, not of them, but just of the general football game on that night. So that's where he was. He was in Comanche at this football game. Well, actually, I don't know if it was at Comanche. I believe they were at an away game. So I'd have to put the location where it is. But it was an away game. So it wasn't at Comanche. Sorry. Okay. And then, so that's the timeline. And then the next thing that we have on the timeline is the party. So I don't know what time he went to the party on Saturday. A lot of this information has been from the Full Load podcast, if I'm getting that correctly, on Spotify. It was shared in the Facebook group, which I'm so thankful for. And thank you to the people who made that podcast and interviewed the family. It was also posted to YouTube, I saw at one point, and to Facebook. Like they have their own Facebook page, but that is no longer available, but it is available on Spotify. So if you don't want to listen to me right now, if you're just like, man, this girl talks so much, just go listen to the podcast. You'll learn a ton of details. You won't learn about like the things that I found off the podcast, like not from the podcast, but like my research, but just go listen to that full podcast no matter what. It's like really good. You know, listen to it while you're cleaning and whatever. If you don't have time to watch a whole video, like this long video. The host, Avery, has sent out a Snap invite. You know, all these like young kids use Snapchat, and they sent out a Snap invite, like, you know, saying party at my house. I have not seen the text, but the family did mention that there was a text sent out about a party. So on the Saturday, the 2nd, that was the party, right? Noah was wearing tan shorts. If you've been following this case, whether or not you've been following this case, Noah had 2 different colored shorts on in the video, in the videos that have been released. He had black shorts on and tan shorts. On Saturday, he wore the tan shorts, and on Sunday, he wore the black shorts. So this is going to be really important for some like timeline figuring out stuff. I also used what people were wearing in those videos to help kind of figure that out. But I did hear in the podcast, I think it was his aunt, Robin, say it. So on Saturday, Noah drove himself to the party. He, I believe, drives a truck, and he had a problem where it would like leak oil, and he had to spend money, you know, a lot of money obviously to fill it up and whatever. But I believe he had to buy like a $40 part, and he didn't want to yet, maybe because it was the weekend or whatever, and or just didn't want to spend the money, who knows. And so he just drove himself that one day, okay? And then the next day he didn't, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So then that day at the party at Saturday, there's videos of the teens or kids, whatever, running through drywall. Like,
which one?
Yeah,
We got it. You see my wiener? Country Pimp. 1-on-1. Mike Tyson.
they played all these like whatever party games. They ran through drywall, like little slats of drywall. They played some sort of slap game. You know, Noah was screaming like, hit me or something. And then they slapped him in the face.
Come on.
Yes,
Come on, Shady. Oh! Damn.
They also played like beer pong and stuff like that. That was all on Saturday. Okay. And then also on Saturday, Noah was written on. Now, being written on, this is actually a really big, important part of the case. He was written on. So the one thing I want you to know about him being written on is what I noticed is he's written on with Sharpie, but he's also written on with some white marker that must be easier to wipe away, because I did find, let me look at my notes here. So on the Saturday, he has white around one of his nipples, and he has no black writing on his chest that I could see, at least from like the hit ones. And he also has marker on his lower back. They also wrote on his butt, and on one of the pictures, Avery Joe's name is written on there. So again, her name has been released. Her name is written on his butt cheek. I think that's it for this Saturday for what he was wearing. Then after, their night of partying, Noah drove himself home. So remember, he drove his car there, his truck there. He drove himself home. He wanted to go home and shower. He contacted his family, said he was home, blah, blah, blah. Then the next day, because he didn't want to buy that part, he decided he had a friend pick him up. And this was on Sunday. So I don't know what he did during Sunday during the day, but at Sunday at 5 p.m. is when he got picked up. Now, this is where some of the confusion starts, is that one of his friends say that they picked him up from his house in Comanche and brought him all the way to the party and says they remember dropping him off on the driveway. And then another story is that the party host had picked him up from like a truck stop or a Sonic or something and then drove him to the party. That's very weird, two very conflicting stories. So that doesn't make sense. You would know where you pick someone up from or who picks whoever up. To be honest, I don't buy this story from the party host, but to each their own. You don't have to believe it. I don't have to believe it. It is what it is. I could be very wrong in my assessment of this situation. So then he got to the party. He was picked up at 5 p.m., whatever. And on did I say Friday? Sunday. And he wore black shorts that day. What I noticed in the videos of that day is that when he was fighting, there was some altercations that day. They didn't happen on the Saturday. They happened on the Sunday. There was a couple altercations. One of them was, I wasn't going to mention them yet, but it does go with the thing. Okay. So one of the altercations was that his best friend Jack was mad at Noah for talking to Jack's girlfriend. Jack's girlfriend, her name is Carter. She is actually sisters with Avery. So he was mad that they were talking in the corner and they got into a fight, but I don't know if it was a verbal or physical fight. That has not been revealed at all. But apparently they made up and said everything is all good. And then the next fight was the high school student thought that Noah took his phone. He fish hooked him and put his fingers in Noah's mouth, to which Noah bit him, which, I mean, why would you put your fingers in someone's mouth? The phone was later found under someone on a couch. And I don't know how this fight ended. I think the fight is this one video, which I'm going to overlay here, of this kid. And he's like screaming, hit me to him, hit me. And the kid kind of hits him and then runs away.
I would just rather so I don't know where.
No, you slap me. I slap you.
As far as I can.
I do trust you. I trust me. I trust him. I trust him. Go ahead.
I don't know if that's the fight, but it appears like that might be the fight. I have to change my camera location because the sun moved even more. So then there was another altercation that happened where Avery, the party host, she wanted Noah, but he rejected her and called her a fat, nasty bee. And then, so a side note about that is that the mother of Avery, which is, I originally wrote, but that's not correct. So that is one of the names not released. But her mom, I think her mom's name is, she had written Noah's sister, Madison, I believe that's her name. Yeah, Madison, I believe that's his only sister, had written her to say that Noah would say how hot she is and how he was going to be with her, or like some weird thing, like be your mommy or like daddy or something weird like that. And this is after Noah had passed. So that's like so inappropriate. Like, who are these people to do that sort of thing? Like, it's just gross. I originally thought the person who owns the house, who is I originally thought that it was her, but then when I learned that Avery's mom, that's actually her aunt that she lives with. That's not her parents. That's her aunt she lives with. And I don't know if her mom lives there too, but I haven't seen that her address is registered there. She could live there too, but I haven't seen that she's registered there. But she probably is. Who knows? And then another one is that Noah wanted to sleep in Avery's bed, but she didn't want him to. She wanted him to sleep on the floor. So that was another fight. And then there is a rumor, the family had said, that someone at the party hit Noah over the head with Jack's golf clubs. I don't know if it was Jack who hit him or someone else who hit him, but someone hit him over the head with golf clubs. That was the alleged thing, which would make sense for his, skull being caved in. That would make, I think, a a golf club could do that. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just from the family. That's what they said. And they said it's all hearsay. They said it's rumors, so they didn't say it's factual. Okay, so getting back to the timeline. So that all happened on Sunday. So now that you know that about those people. So what I noticed about the writing on him is that on Sunday when he was fighting, so that's why I mentioned all the fights and stuff. On Sunday when he was fighting, I can't see any writing on his stomach, which there was some very obvious writing on the side, which I'll point to in the video. There was some writing on his side that would have been noticed when he was fighting. So it wasn't put on his body then. And then but during the fights, he only had some on his, like, looking at the video, it was like this side where he had a little bit of writing only. So I don't know if they like took turns, or if that's just like one from the previous night that he couldn't get off his body, because on the previous night I mentioned that he had white writing on him and you couldn't see any of that on Sunday. So when he went home to shower, he obviously was able to get that off because it wasn't permanent marker, but the permanent marker he probably wasn't able to get off of his body. There's a person who's sitting on the couch. You can see their legs. It looks like there's a purse on their knee, and I was trying to figure out whose purse that could have been. If I end up finding it editing, I'll put that somewhere here, but I haven't been able to find anything yet. But I assume it was Jack's dad, Caleb, but it could be any of the adults. There was multiple adults at that party. But when that person's sitting on the couch zooming in, you cannot see any writing on Noah at all. Doesn't mean there isn't, but I can't see any in the video because I'm trying to figure out a timeline when he was written on, because I'm going to get to why in a second. And then all of a sudden in the Daily Mail post, they posted the photos, not blurred and stuff, which I appreciate. They had posted, and Noah is written all over on that. Okay, so the caption that the Daily Mail wrote on it is, Presgrove left, poses with a friend on the Sunday night of the party hours before his death. I mean, hours is subjective, right? Some people can mean 6 hours, some can mean 3. But based on this timeline, I think it was just shortly before. I mean, Jack looks pretty drunk in my opinion here. Not that Noah doesn't, but Noah is a big guy. And then what I also find interesting, just like a side note, is if you zoom in, I did an edited one to try to see what was written on his body, because the previous night there were names written on his body, but this night it looks like it says like you can't see the next part. And the stomach, I was like, is that like HITLER? I don't know if you can say that on YouTube. And then the part where his hand is, it looks like 1-SH. Does it mean SHOT? Like, what did they write? And then at the top on his chest, like above his nipple there, it says I, but you can't see it. Were they writing like derogatory, weird slangs, like describing him? Like, I don't know. That's very weird. There's some speculation in the Facebook group about this being a hate crime since Noah's ethnicity, so that's been suspected, but I don't think so. But yeah, and then there's this picture here of them in the kitchen. I know that it's not like the most flattering one of Noah. I have a lot of really great photos of Noah to share, which I'll put, throughout this video. But you also don't see writing on his body here at all. And when he's dancing in the kitchen, you don't see writing on his body, and they're all hanging on the house. And so I think it was towards the end of the night that he got written on, maybe when he was like super drunk already. And that's when they wrote all over his body, So the important thing to know about him being written all over his body is that when he was found, he had no writing on his body. What? Crazy, hey? Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And the family had said that one of the friends, she has a public Facebook. She put this photo, she put that Noah's missing, which I'm going to share. I guess I'll share now because it's the next thing on the timeline. She did share that Noah missing Snapchat, which is still on her Facebook. She did not delete it. So at 3:41 a.m., the next timestamp after all this stuff, the writing on him and stuff is, Noah's missing. And she obviously is very drunk. So this girl is a CNA. There's actually a lot of people who work in the healthcare field who were at that party, but she wrote 3:41. Her hair looks wet, right? And it was said to the family that she was one of the ones who showered him. It was actually her and Carter. Carter is Jack's fiance now. They're going to get married soon. They were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time of this party, but they were the ones who showered Noah, okay? And they showered him. The story why he got showered is sometime between the Snapchat, sorry, I realized I had a line here, between the Snapchat photo and between all the other stuff on the timeline. At some point, there was an ATV incident. So it wouldn't necessarily be called an accident. It had a roll cage on it. And I found a picture of Jack on one. So I don't know if that's his, but they had a lot of parties and stuff. They still party all the time. Where Noah was in the driver's seat and someone else was in the passenger seat, which I think is this friend who was in it, Jasmine. I believe it was her in the passenger seat, and they had crashed it. And the passenger seat is the part that hit the ground. It might not have been her who in it. I just think it's her, but it might not be her. Had hit the ground, And because he got so dirty, they wanted to shower him, is the story. But Noah's family had said there had been no rain that weekend, so it was dry. So there was no mud. There's no reason to shower him. I mean, you're partying. Why would you want to shower? Like, you just dust off the dirt, especially if it was not wet. You just dust off and continue on with your night, That's what normal people do. But apparently, at the time of this incident, Jack and Carter were asleep. But like I just said a few moments ago, apparently Carter and Jasmine were the ones who showered Noah. So did Jasmine just go wake up Carter and not wake up Jack? Like, I don't know what happened there because there's stories of Jack sleeping, there's stories of Jack not sleeping. So that's really confusing. One of the notes I wrote is the party must have had no one there. Like in the videos, you can see apparently there's about 40 people at the party, but at the time when there's like videos zooming in and stuff, it looks like there's only like 10. So maybe that's why they knew he was missing, getting ahead back to that Snapchat. So yeah, so then there's that Snapchat and it looks like she's the one. So I believe her story is correct because there's different stories about who showered him. So I believe her story because she looks wet, So she was probably the one of those who showered him. But again, what I said is that he was found without any writing on his body. And he showered at home the night before, wasn't able to get off permanent marker because like I said, I don't think he was written on. I think he was written on twice, not 3 times. I could be wrong. But he still had black marker on him that was on him the night before, I believe, except for the white, which wasn't permanent marker. So he probably wasn't able to get the permanent marker off. So in order to get permanent marker off, you have to use chemicals. And there was rumors, someone had said that property that morning after finding Noah and everything had smelled of chemicals. They said they were just cleaning up beer cans and sort of thing, but there apparently on the property was a strong smell of chemicals. So maybe they were cleaning up after, getting way ahead of myself here. But how hard would they have to scrub Noah to get that permanent marker off? Why were they trying to get it off? Were the names still on him? Because on his butt, he probably wasn't able to reach that at home. Maybe they were getting off Avery's name and whoever else's name was on his butt, who knows? Because he maybe wouldn't have seen that in the shower, because if it happened when he was drunk the night before, at home, he wouldn't remember like, hey, I got my butt written on, you just wouldn't remember that. I think I could be wrong. So why did they scrub it off his body? Cover up. My personal opinion, it's a cover up. That alone points to a cover up. Totally does. That's just my opinion. Totally points to a cover up. So let's continue on with more of the timeline. I'm sorry I'm getting so heated, but this is very wrong. Something very wrong happened here. Not just a guy losing his life, but what they're all doing before, after, now, not good. Okay, so the next thing on the timeline is when Noah was found. It has been said that he was found shortly after 5. So that's like an hour and 40 minutes from that Noah is missing message, And like I said, I did request a 911 call, wasn't released, so I don't know for sure on the exact time. Because what I've learned when I cover these cases, when timelines are given, they're never the exact. Maybe for obvious reasons people can't find information. I have no idea, but the times are never correct. And I'm not blaming the family, obviously. I'm just saying if the public had, like officials had told them this, then there's a little bit of discrepancy with time. The only thing I was able to find on dispatch, they don't have a police dispatch in Jefferson County that I could find, but I did find the Waurika, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, which is a neighboring county. They did say on the dispatch about the fire department headed that way on Highway 81, just north of Terrell. So I'll just play that quick little thing here.
24 Jefferson County. Go ahead, 24. Jefferson County. Go ahead, 24. This is county. En route. We're en route. En route to north of Terrell. Yes, ma'am. County clear at 634. Are you Ryan or Terrell? Fire department. Okay, county clear, 635, thank you.
So that was at 6:34 a.m. So that is like an hour and a half after Noah was found, roughly. So that's why I think the timeline maybe has a little bit of gray area in there, but I could be very, very wrong because I don't know what time Noah's brother, Dallin and his dad showed up because they got the call and were there within half an hour. and saw everything going on. Okay, so that is it for the actual timeline. And that was crazy enough in my opinion, but it gets crazier, believe it or not. So I'm going to go through the people connected in this story. Okay, so the most important people in my mind are Noah's family, the ones who are outspoken right now. There's Deborah Smith. She's the grandma of Noah, who he lived with at the time. There's Casey Smith, who's his mom. She wasn't on any podcast, but she is advocating for her son as much as possible. There's Robin Smith, who is the aunt, and she's the one who's been on the podcast, which they are having another episode come out. I just checked my Facebook before recording here, and I see that they have another episode coming up June 2nd, and it's going to air at 8 p.m. on Spotify. So just mark your calendars for that. And then the other person who is on the podcast as well, why didn't I write her name down? It is Ashley Chadwick. She is the cousin of Noah. And then there's also Madison Rawlings. She is the sister of Noah. And then there's also Dalen Presgrove, whoever. I'm so sorry. I know it looks really bad to not know the pronunciation of his name, but like I said, I haven't heard it actually said. Presgrove, he is the brother of Noah. And he does have other siblings too. But these are the ones who are outspoken. Okay, and then the other person who's been on the news, he took a polygraph and everything, is Jack Newton. I will play a little bit of a clip of that, of News Nation talking to him. I think his body language is kind of shifty, and he really pushes off any other possibility besides a hit and run. So let's see who Jack is.
Details about what it was like to have so much suspicion surrounding him and what it was like to pass a polygraph test. Take a listen.
I ran over here, asked him if Noah was okay, and the semi-truck driver had his hands on Noah like this. And so I just kind of, and I could just tell, that he was not okay. He was laying on his side, and he just had his eyes closed, And he had a cut on his forehead. Like, it wasn't just like terrible, it was just a cut on his forehead. The top of his hair was scraped off his head, and there was blood on his ears. 100% in my heart think that he was hit. I think he got hit on the top of his head by a semi. And that shoe that was on good just stayed on. I don't know.
So he is the supposed best friend. It's just my opinion to say supposed, just based on everything that's happened. But he might not be involved, He might not be involved. He passed the polygraph. Oh, geez, my hair is sticking. I'm so sorry. That's probably been the whole time. I have a mirror here. I just don't have a viewfinder. And then there's Caleb Newton. I feel comfortable saying his name because his name was mentioned on the news as well. Noah's brother had said Caleb and Jack showed up.
We started driving down there, and it's only a 30-minute drive from Comanche, but that drive felt like 2 hours just sitting in silence. And then we show up, and Jack and Caleb and the Jefferson County Sheriff was there. And
so what's interesting to know is that Caleb and Jack were at the crime scene before any family had got there. They were there with the Jefferson County Police. And apparently they were there because they were on their way to go fishing. And that was just after 5, sometime. And it's why were they there? You were partying all night for how many, at least 2 days, drinking all the time. You don't go to sleep to go fishing? It makes no sense. That makes no sense to me. Why would you? They just rock up to the, no. I don't buy it. They went to go fishing after a night of drinking. I mean, all things are possible, right? So I might be very wrong on that, but I personally don't buy it. The interesting thing is that Caleb had some of Caleb's teeth in his pocket.
So we picking up damn teeth, like we picking up. I guess if I'm a rock finder, or and put. So what he had Noah's teeth in his pockets.
That's not how it was explained to me. He said that it was on the ground by his feet, and he was standing there, and he was just looking down, and he was just trying to focus and figure out what it was, and he bent down and picked it up. And
potential evidence he just picked up.
Yeah, man.
The reason why I'm bringing up teeth is if they're not all recovered, that means that one or maybe multiple teeth are still on that property, and where the supposedly accident, ATV or UTV accident happened, or he was in a fight, accident happened, or whatever, there's probably still some teeth on the property if they weren't all recovered. And that goes again, Jefferson County Sheriff dropping the ball and not doing a thorough investigation.
And he had said he picked them up off the ground. So my inquisitive, questioning mind is did you pick them up off the ground, or were they actually just in your pocket and you were oh, I forgot to take these out, and my story is I just picked them up, You're going to see in a second why I am so suspect of Caleb. Another theory is that because of that ATV accident, even though, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Dang it, I'm so sorry. The CNA, so Jasmine, had checked Caleb out and had noticed no obvious signs of injury.
Did he sustain any injuries in this tipple?
She said no.
Nothing.
Not a thing.
They just walked away from
And she's a CNA, and she's the first one that told us the shower story. And she said her and the best friend's girlfriend had given Noah the shower. And being a CNA, she did not see any kind of head contusion. She did not see any scrapes. She did not see anything.
So for me, the ATV accident is out the window. A nurse inspected him and didn't see any injury. And he had a lot of injuries on him when he was found on the road, not alive anymore, right? So I believe that's kind of like nil, like I've said about other things. I don't think that's anything. A weird thing about Caleb too is that, so like I said, Noah was found without any clothes on. But Caleb is the one who took all of Noah's clothes and gave them to friends as mementos.
The cops told or gave Noah's clothes to his dad, to the best friend's dad, and they have passed them out to various friends and stuff for them to keep as mementos.
What? Those are evidence. So the things that are missing is Noah had a USA flag tank on at some point in the party. It was said that he wore it on Saturday, but he might have had it with him on Sunday. Who knows? He also had black shorts, his other shoe, because one of the shoes wasn't his that he had on. He's also missing his necklace, which he wore that necklace both days. You can see it in the videos. He wore that necklace. He's also missing his wallet. There was also a check from work, not cash. It's not known if they even checked his bank statements, but they were able to find his cell phone, which is new. He recently got it. It was on his own plan where he's on I think his grandma's plan before or something. So that I find interesting. So where are all those items, including his underwear, right? If he had underwear on, some people don't wear underwear. Totally cool. But where are all those things? You don't need those things. Why would he pass them out? That makes no sense. That's also why he is suspect to me. Okay. I'm just calling it like it is. This guy has already been out there. His wife, Rosa, has made posts. You know what? Maybe I'll just read Rosa's post right now. And you know what? I found it the other day and she has since deleted it, but I'm going to read it anyways. I normally wouldn't make a post like this, but I can't take it anymore. Since this is my social media, I just want to say my son Jack is not a POS. I am talking to people that don't know him personally that's calling him that. So she's saying like people who do know him can see it. People that don't know Jack saying this, that he knows something or he's hiding info is just beyond me. We are praying every single day that we find answers for Noah. Jack has given all the info he knows to help find / get answers about what happened. He is cooperating in everything he has asked. I am so sick of people be so hateful and ugly. If you're on my Facebook and have anything negative to say about my son, you can just remove yourself or I will. Which is interesting, right? It's for good reason why. Maybe she's upset. Maybe Jack is not involved, but it doesn't make sense that people are questioning Jack. He's his best friend. He always said, like, wherever Noah is, there's Jack. Wherever Jack is, there's Noah, So that I find interesting. And okay, so another thing to know about both Caleb and Rosa is that they told all of the friends who were at the party not to contact Noah's family because they had said that they were all mad at them. And this is after it freshly just happened. Even though they had said that they were, like Noah's family were concluding themselves in their house.
That day to give their condolences. Nothing. Not a thing.
I see. That's weird too.
And we were told whenever the best friend of the girl who threw the party, when she came over, that his best friend, the boy best friend, his parents had told everybody that we were mad at them. Day of that we were mad at them and that they shouldn't come anywhere near us.
Because the rumors had already started. And we didn't even know any
We were
rumors.
cocooned in the
know
house, in our grief, trying to figure out what the hell happened at that point. We hadn't heard anything.
And didn't say anything to anybody. Even so, even if you heard that, you would be like, I don't care. I'm going to reach out and be like, hey, are you okay? Apparently if they're all so close, or I'm so sweaty. Apparently if they're all so close, they live in a small town. Why wouldn't they reach out and give their condolences? They didn't even give their condolences. They went to the funeral. There's 1,000 people at the funeral, which is amazing to honor him. But, Caleb and Rosa are very fishy to me. Like maybe Jack's not it. Maybe it's Caleb and Rosa. That's my opinion. And I'm going to share more why in a second, which is right now actually, because that's on my notes. So I searched Caleb Newton at the very beginning of this when I was like, I watched all the news stories first when I wanted to learn about this. And then I was like, okay, I'll Google search him. So I Google searched, I always start with Google, the most basic thing first, and then I try to go to a website to find like more information. And then I go to their Facebooks and all that sort of stuff. So I went and I searched Caleb Newton. I searched Terrell, Oklahoma. And like I said, Waurika is in like a county of that area. And I saw that in 2020, June 30th, 2020, there was a boating accident in which Caleb's friend, I'm not going to share their names at all, those people, but there was an accident where this is the story, is that apparently the boat was in idle and their 7-year-old daughter, so Caleb and Rose's friends, their 7-year-old daughter got hit by the propeller and died at the scene.
We begin this evening with an investigation by Oklahoma Highway Patrol troopers after a 7-year-old died at Waurika Lake Saturday. Officials responded to a call about 5:15 yesterday evening at the Kiowa 2 boat ramp on the lake. According to troopers, 10 people were on a 2007 Mastercraft boat southbound near the boat ramp at an idle speed. 7 adults and 3 children were aboard the boat. At some point, troopers said the 7-year-old girl was in the water and struck by the propeller. Medical examiners pronounced her dead at the scene once they arrived. Troopers stated the driver smelled of alcohol and the cause of the incident is still under investigation.
Terrible, right? Awful. So sad. But, and apparently they had said that Caleb's breath had reeked of alcohol. And there was like a bunch of people on the boat. Just like at the party, there was a bunch of people, kids and adults at the party, right? So apparently his breath reeked of alcohol. There was no charges brought against him. None that I can see. I could be wrong, but from what I see, there was no charges brought against him. Why? This is why I think that they are involved. This is my suspicion that they're involved because they were involved in the death of a 7-year-old and not charged for it, which doesn't make sense. What's weird about that? So anyways, this man filed a lawsuit against Caleb, and it was called a friendly suit, whatever that means. And they had said in the documentation that, okay, so they filed the lawsuit on August 17th, 2020. So almost a full 2 months after their daughter's death. And it was a petition for a friendly suit. It says, and I'll just block the parents' names. I'll only keep Caleb's name on it. But it says, on June 13th, 2020, on Lake Waurika in Jefferson County, state of Oklahoma, a boating accident occurred as the result of the defendant's negligence. So to go into that, before I keep reading that, I'm going to play for you. I was looking up, like, how often do people get hit by propellers? Because I wasn't sure if, like, the propeller flew off or what had happened. I'm going to share this YouTube video I found with you about, like, the accidents on, like, because a lot of people, like, a decent number die from propeller accidents. Like, I know a girl who lost her leg on the lake because she got swooped up in the thing. And so, and this little girl lost her life, so she had significant injuries. I'm going to play for this little thing that I found you about, like, what they say. And then when I was reading this document, I was like, yep, that goes with it. So I'll play that for you now.
Detective Marsky says most propeller strikes have one factor in common.
Number one reason that prop strikes happen is because of operator inattention.
When you hear of another prop strike, is that frustrating to you?
It is, yeah, because it's 100% avoidable.
One of the most common scenarios is somebody's in the water behind the boat, goes to swim toward the boat, and the driver turns the motor on. In many cases, the ladder is attached to the back of the boat, right next to the motor and propeller.
The driver of the boat turns the key, and it starts the propeller.
So going back to this, it says, again, I read it again, that the accident occurred as a result of the defendant's negligence. That's what the plaintiff is saying, right? It says for cause of action against defendant state. So I guess it was partly the state as well. I don't know. Which proves that the state did nothing. It says as a result of the accident, blank sustained fatal injuries. The remaining plaintiffs suffered severe emotional damage and or bodily injury. Interesting. They got hurt as well. I did not realize that when I read this before. Upon information and belief, the defendant was covered by a boating liability policy with policy limits of $100,000. Wherefore, plaintiffs seek judgment against the defendant in the amount of $100,000 plus the cost of this action. And then they sign the document. Okay, and then the the defendant, Caleb, answered the petition for a friendly suit, and it says, for answer to the plaintiff's petition for friendly suit, defendant states, number one, defendant denies allegations and negligent, or maybe they mean negligent as stated in the plaintiff's petition, because they said he was negligent. He was obviously under the influence. And from what I shared in that video too, if I include all of it, is that It often is the error of the driver of the boat that causes someone to pass away. And they had said the boat was in idle, but I looked it up, and propellers can spin really fast on idle, but still it's the result of, and the parents are claiming it was the result of the negligence of Caleb. And it says, however, defendant states that a compromised settlement of the plaintiff's claims have been reached in the amount of the defendant's liability insurance policy limit of $100,000. So then, and then it went through approval, and then all they did was settle. They settled the suit, and it was dismissed because they got their $100,000 policy. So it didn't come out of Caleb's pocket. It came out, I mean, in a way it did for him paying into his insurance, but it came from his insurance claim, and then was given to the family that lost the 7-year-old, and they're still Facebook friends. Like, they shared a post about, the anniversary of her passing, and then Caleb liked it. So this is why I have my belief that Caleb and Rosa could be involved, because he denied negligence, which I guess he could, but I don't know, he has some sort of connection, which I'm going to share his connection that I found, that I believe has some pull in some way. There might be other connections too, but on why nothing's happening with Noah's case, and why charges were not pressed with this little girl losing her life. Like, it's, that in itself is really wrong. And like, people like in the Facebook group and just like all over YouTube and stuff are like, how could someone kill Noah or be involved in it, even if it's accidental or whatever, and be walking around life and like, living their life, having their dinners, going on their trips, and like being totally okay with it. Well, this happened in 2020 with a 7-year-old who was their close friend. So this isn't shocking to me whatsoever, which is why I'm comfortable bringing this out there, because this was on the news. This is public information about Caleb, okay? And when I Googled it, the news article said Caleb Newton of Comanche, I believe is what it said. Okay, so then we have the connection to Caleb, okay? Caleb and Rosa are friends with Leah and Bill. I won't share multiple names, so I won't share hers. But she is the sister to Caleb, and she's a nurse. She's probably at the party, is my assumption. And Bill, I can share his last name because he's a public figure, Bill Straley, if I'm saying that right. He was the Comanche police chief until December 31st, 2022. Not the same time as this incident with Noah losing his life, but he was a police chief. And I'm like, I followed cases before. It's like they still have their connections, just because he's not a police chief now doesn't mean he still doesn't have connections, So I don't get it. And then currently, he is the fire chief at the volunteer firefighter in Coram, which is in Hastings, Oklahoma. So he right now is a fire chief, which ties with the timeline, I think, of knowing the accident, finding Noah on the ground, because like I shared, the fire department was on their way, and it was the Waurika Fire Department, but was Bill there too, because it was, I don't know if I said this earlier, but it was said that 2 phones, they had cast a GeoNet recently, the Texas Rangers, and they had found out that there were 2 cell phones that were at the scene of the alleged crime, and then made their way back to the house before Noah was found. So who was it? My suspicion is it could have been Bill. And this is why I believe the Texas Rangers have been called in. There's been assumptions or speculation on why the Texas Rangers are involved in this case now, because the first episode aired in December and the second one aired in January. And then between those 2 times, the Texas Rangers became involved, unless they became involved early and the family just told in January, but they were involved. It's assumed that they're involved because of there being Texas students at the party. But my assumption is that it actually comes from the fact that, a police officer could potentially be involved in this, or someone in law, which Bill was a former police chief, and then he is a fire chief at the volunteer firefighter hall station, whatever. But what's interesting to know about the Texas Rangers, why they even get involved, it's not necessarily because someone from another state was there. It says the Texas Rangers conduct major violent crime, public corruption, cold cases, officer-involved shooting investigations, and oversee the department's border security and tactical and crisis negotiation programs. So when there's corruption, they're there. I believe something's going to happen here. Maybe I'm wrong, but hopefully this is amazing that Texas Rangers are here. I feel like they're not corrupt. This is my assumption based on not living there, obviously. But right now, Bill is running for Steffens People say that all differently. County sheriff for 2024. And the next vote is June 18th this year. I wonder if he's going to become the frickin' county sheriff or sheriff in the county of Stevens County. Like I said, I'm Canadian, so sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but that's crazy. That connection alone is like, yep, people suspect that there could be some sort of law enforcement connection, and there is. They party together all the time, and he is the brother-in-law of Caleb Newton, who Caleb Newton is the dad of Jack Newton, and Jack Newton is the best friend of Noah. Sorry, I keep looking at my mirror because I want to make sure I'm still recording. So it looks like I'm looking at myself, but I'm just looking to make sure my camera's still recording. But that's crazy to me. That connection alone is bonkers. It's bonkers. So I'm just going to take a break, cool myself down, and then continue on with sharing the information that I have found. Okay, so I've heard it mentioned quite a few times on like the podcast and on Facebook that the people who own the land that the party was at like know a whole lot, or like own a bunch of land in the area. So the parents of the owners of the house, the sister. So, okay, the ones who lived at the house, I don't think they live there anymore, was Avery Carter. Their mom, like I said, which I don't know if I'm going to include that, I might cut out her name. But she is the sister, who's the mom, who is the owner of the party house, like the house they all partied at. But they are sisters. So their grandparents, so Avery's great-grandparent owns the land there and owns like cattle land and everything. I mean, I could be wrong. I believe I found the correct information. I'm not going to show everything, but yeah, because I can't show everything. It's just not cool, but they own the land. So they have a lot of pull. Like I heard they had a lot of pull, but like that connection is kind of more minimal to me compared to the connection that Caleb has with his brother-in-law, you know? It's interesting to me. Okay, so I also heard it mentioned on the podcast that at the time of finding Noah, apparently, before the police got there, there was a truck there and a white car. But the truck stayed, which I assume was Caleb and Jack, and then because they both drive trucks, and then the white car was gone. I was trying to figure out who drove a white car. You know who drives a white car? Carter. Carter drives a white car. She is, like I said, the fiance of Jack, and she was one of the ones who showered Noah. Her car is white. I found all the proof of her car being white. I found it with her dogs in her car. She is, like, when she graduated, she was standing outside her car. These people should have fessed up. Like, to hold in this crime for so long, if they know anything, even if they're not involved, if they know something, is like accessory after the fact, you know? These people have, like, good things going for them. I don't know what Jack is doing, but Carter is, like, in dentistry. She's doing great things with her life. And you're going to ruin your life? It doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know who's involved. I don't know. But these people's names are already out there, and except for Carter's, but she's the fiance of Jack. So I do feel like it's important to mention her. And I'm not going to mention Avery's dad's name. I think I bleeped out her mom's name. They had said that his car or Noah's body maybe got dumped off a truck. And like people are like, well, who would even do that? Because you get your truck all bloody. Well, Caleb does have a really old truck I saw from an old video or picture. And then Jack sells a lot of things, so this could just be coincidental. Apparently he sold a side-by-side since this, but I haven't seen that on Facebook, but I did see he sells trucks a lot. So he did sell a couple of trucks like a few months after, like in December of 2023. So was there evidence in that truck and now it's gone, sold, you know? Because nothing was searched. Nothing was searched. It's crazy that nothing was searched after this. Like clearly bad on the investigation part, that's why I'm mentioning the connections here. Okay, so I believe that's all of the connections. I don't want to mention every single person because if they're not public figures then and like directly tied, like, you know, Jack's fiance, then I'm not going to mention them. Oh yeah, and the important thing to know about Jack's fiance, Carter, she apparently wiped her phone so clean after Noah's death that she didn't even have her own fiance or boyfriend's number at the time in her own phone. They like all white, like I said, the Snapchats were all deleted. She wiped her phone. People have like new Facebooks. This is really fishy. They know something, especially if they're cleaning up. They know something in my mind. They do know something. And you're going to ruin your whole life now. I mean, I don't give a crap about talking about it because Noah's dead. He's not here anymore. And someone needs to fight for him who's willing to look into stuff. And I think the truth matters, okay? The truth matters and justice matters. And I believe with Texas Rangers being involved, justice is going to be served, you know? Hopefully. I think the last thing I have to go through, there's two more things. Okay, so I wrote a title called Weird Stuff. Okay, so the snaps being deleted, the 3 different stories on the shower incident, And it was also whether he was conscious or not at the time of the shower, which is really weird, right? The teeth in his pocket by Caleb, that's really weird. And then Avery and them cleaning. Oh, they also removed their guns from the property because apparently if there were guns there and serving alcohol, like they could only get a ticket is what I think it was Robin who said on the podcast. But they removed the guns because if the guns were there, they could have been charged with a felony. So because of the alcohol. Okay, the last thing to mention that people would be curious about was there drugs and alcohol in Noah's system at the time of his passing? So no drugs. Per News Nation, they released the toxicology or partial toxicology or autopsy of that. There's no drugs in his system at all. His blood alcohol level was 0.14, but I have looked that up and decomposition can raise it higher. And then they also took his vitreous blood, which is, it was 0.18, so just 0.4 points higher, but apparently it tends to be 10 to 15 times higher. And it is taken from the eye, which is weird, but I've learned a lot looking into this, like what they do postmortem is that they take it from the eye because they take it from the eye because that is the last area to kind of like resist putrefaction, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, longer than other bodily fluids. So they take it from the eye. This is very common to take it from the eye. So he did have a 0.14 and it's 0.18 in the eye, but again, it tends to be 10 to 15 times higher. And I guess he wouldn't be decomping that long depending on when he passed. So the 0.4, I don't even know what the legal alcohol limit is because I never, no matter what, drink and drive. So I will put that on the screen though. And his autopsy was done 24 hours post his death, which is really weird because normally it should be done like right away. And then also I looked it up is that yes, that blood alcohol level was done and decomp can raise it higher, but I looked it up and blood alcohol levels are valid up to 48 hours after, and if his autopsy is done at 48 or 24 hours, then it is a valid number. So, which is why they also take 2, because it said typically they don't take the blood alcohol level after someone's passed. So that's really weird. That's what I found up online. So I believe that is all the information that I have for Noah's case. Sorry, I'm looking at my notebook again just to double check. Yeah, I have more information about people and like screenshots and stuff. I'm not going to share that. Like I said, I'm sharing the public figures. I'm sharing like some of the party host information. Oh yeah, another weird thing is that News Nation had posted on their video where the party house was. They had said it was in Terrell and they said it was at this location at the public school. But going off the podcast, going off all the stories I've heard, they got the house wrong and it's actually a different house. And then the Daily Mail posted where the house was. They got the street right, but not the house correct. I know the actual house. Okay. I know the actual house and they probably don't live there anymore, but I can point to the street, but the Daily Mail got the house wrong. Okay. They got the house wrong. You can find it easily. I found it up just looking up their name and then it showed up their voting record on if they're Democrat or Republican. And so that information was all right there. So that's how I was able to find their house. It took some time because I was like trying to do distances of like how far away, because they said like 1.1. They said their driveway was 0.8 miles. And I was like, what? I did post in the Facebook group, but they declined my post asking, even though I said like, don't tell me where the house is. I said, just why is there a discrepancy in what News Nation is posting? Like, are they correct? Because you guys had said that they had a long driveway and then it's very clear that this is on public school property. So there is no long driveway. But yeah, I don't know why that is. They don't allow many things in the Facebook group in terms of like talking about the party house. When you search party house, there's nothing you can really find. So I find that very interesting, but you know, it is the family. They can decide whatever they want to share. But yeah, I think it's important to know who the people are involved in. Man, I hope Noah gets some justice soon. This case has been very, very fascinating for me to look into, especially seeing all these connections. And I hope that it, you know, shines more light on Noah's case. And I don't mean hate to these people. I just think if you know something, you know, the saying, if you know something, say something. Like, you know, maybe you can, I would say get a deal, but like Noah deserves real, full, true justice. So you guys are messed up for covering this up. Like they're learning all this. My opinion, this is my opinion, is that it was a cover up. It was a cover up. This is what I believe. And you know, it's wrong. It's so wrong. And it is what it is. It's, you know, rest in peace, Noah. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry, I'm a sweaty mess. It's very hot outside. We have forest fires. I can't have my window open. I can't have a fan on or else you hear the fan, and the sun is changing. I tried filming earlier on Life with Kids, but it is what it is. Thank you for being here, and I hope you learned something, and I hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day if you're a mother, or wish to be a mother or went through loss. Bye, guys.